The stars of the Thalaran Empire shone cold and distant, scattered like silver jewels across the endless black sea of space. From the tallest tower of the Crystal Palace of Vylora, Princess Lysera gazed out at them with heavy eyes. Normally, she loved the view of the galaxy stretching beyond her world. Tonight, however, the sight only reminded her of how small she felt, caught between duty and fear. The council chamber still echoed in her memory. That was where her father, Emperor Thaloran IV, had announced the decision that would change her life forever. Peace with the humans must be secured, he had declared, his deep voice steady, though lines of exhaustion marked his face. And for that there is only one path, marriage between our royal bloodline and theirs. Lysera had felt the room spin. A royal marriage, her marriage, was to be the bridge between two civilizations. She had not argued, because no daughter of Thalaran dared question such a command, yet inside her heart had trembled. The human chosen as her husband was not just any man. He was General Marcus Kane, the name whispered like thunder across the stars. The humans called him a hero. The Thalarans called him a monster. For as long as Lysera could remember, tales of humans had filled her halls. Some were filled with admiration, their stubborn will, their strange creativity, their courage to stand against greater powers. Others, however, were darker. She had grown up hearing the stories, the human fleets that tore through enemy lines with unmatched fire, the human soldiers who refused to surrender even when outnumbered. Most frightening of all were the accounts of General Kane himself. He shows no mercy, the courtiers whispered. He burns entire armies to ash. He laughs at surrender. Every rumor painted him as a figure of fear, ruthless and cold, a man shaped only by war. Lysera, who valued harmony, music, and study, could not imagine standing beside such a being. As the night deepened, she turned from the window, her long silver robe trailing softly against the polished crystal floor. Her attendants moved carefully around her, silent and respectful. They, too, had heard the news. Their eyes carried the same unspoken question. How can our gentle princess survive with such a husband? In the days that followed, preparations for the alliance moved quickly. The Empire's artisans crafted ceremonial gowns of woven starlight fabric, and architects decorated the great halls with banners of unity. Yet, beneath the beauty, fear lingered. Lysera felt it most when she walked through the city. Citizens bowed, but their faces showed unease. They did not trust the humans, and many pitied their princess for being offered as a bride. Some whispered blessings for her safety. Others muttered curses at the human who had forced this situation through war. At night, Lysera could not sleep. She read the old texts of her people, searching for courage in the words of past queens. Yet none of their challenges had been like hers. None had been asked to join with a race so different, so feared. One evening, her elder brother, Prince Kalen, entered her chambers. He was tall and proud with the bearing of a warrior. Though he loved his sister, his tone carried frustration. You must not show weakness, Lysera, he told her. This marriage is not only about you. It is about the survival of our empire. If the humans see fear in your eyes, they will use it against us. I understand, Lysera said softly. But tell me, brother, is he truly as ruthless as they say? Kalen paused. For a moment his sharp gaze softened. I fought against him once, he admitted. His tactics were merciless. He did not hesitate, but he was not cruel without reason. He struck hard to end battles quickly. I do not know the man behind the armor. Few do. His words stayed with Lysera. Could it be that the image of General Kane was shaped more by fear than truth? Or was it possible that he really was the monster her people described? Days turned into weeks, and soon the time of her departure drew near. The wedding would not be on Thalar itself, but on neutral ground, aboard the Celestial Accord, a vast diplomatic ship orbiting between the two empires. There, leaders from dozens of worlds would witness the binding of Thalaran and human, a union meant to reshape the galaxy. On the morning of her journey, Lysera dressed in the ceremonial gown chosen for her first meeting. Its silver threads shimmered like moonlight, and the gems across her crown glowed faintly with inner light. She looked every part the princess her people adored, yet inside her heart pounded with dread. Her closest handmaiden, Serenia, adjusted the veil across her hair and whispered, Do not be afraid, my lady. Perhaps he is not as terrible as the rumors claim. Lysera gave her a small, sad smile. Hope is all I have, Serenia. hope, and duty. As she boarded the golden transport craft that would take her to the celestial accord, she cast one last look at her homeworld. The shining cities, the crystal spires, the fields of glowing flowers. All that she loved seemed to fade behind her. Ahead waited the unknown, and a man whose name alone filled her with unease. During the voyage, Lysera spent much of her time in silence. She read reports of human customs, trying to prepare herself for the encounter. The text described humans as emotional, adaptable, and stubborn. Yet the chapter on General Marcus Kane was short, almost empty. His history was classified, his battles summarized only in brief. That secrecy troubled her most of all. The night before their arrival, Lysera sat alone in her chamber, hands clasped tightly. She whispered to herself, not as a princess but as a frightened young woman. Stars above, give me strength. Let me see truth beyond fear. Let me find courage in what lies ahead. At last, the celestial accord appeared before them, a vast station shining with thousands of lights, like a small sun floating in the dark. The ship docked with smooth precision, and Lysera's escort guided her through golden halls toward the chamber where her future husband awaited. Every step felt heavier than the last. Her heart thundered in her chest. The great doors opened with a hiss of air, revealing the vast ceremonial hall within. There, standing at the center, was General Marcus Kane. Lysera froze. The image in her mind, the ruthless monster of rumor, clashed with the reality before her. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and undeniably commanding, but his face was not twisted with cruelty. His expression was calm, his eyes steady and watchful. He stood not as a brute, but as a man who carried the weight of countless decisions. For the first time, Lysera realized something she had never considered. Perhaps the truth about Marcus Kane could not be found in whispers or rumors. Perhaps she would have to see for herself. The ceremonial hall of the celestial accord glowed with soft golden light. Tall windows stretched high into the ceiling, showing the endless stars beyond. Banners of the Human Federation and the Thalaran Empire hung side by side, though their colors seemed to resist blending. Princess Lysera entered slowly, her attendants behind her. Her gown shimmered faintly as she moved, and her long veil floated like silver mist. Though she walked with a graceful posture, inside her heart beat like a drum. At the far end of the hall stood General Marcus Kane, the man who was to be her husband. Lysera's first thought was surprise. He was not the terrifying beast she had imagined from stories. His armor was gone, replaced by a formal black uniform trimmed with silver, the emblem of the Human Federation resting on his chest. He was tall, yes, and strong, his presence filling the room, but he did not snarl or glare. His face was serious, marked with faint scars, but his eyes were not cruel. They were steady, calm, and human. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Courtiers, diplomats, and guards watched closely, their whispers hushed. Both empires waited to see what this meeting would bring. Finally, Marcus stepped forward. His boots echoed lightly against the polished floor, yet his movements carried no aggression. When he stopped before her, he placed one hand across his chest and bowed slightly. Not the deep bow of a subject, but a gesture of respect. "Princess Lysera," he said, his voice deep yet even. "It is an honor to meet you." Lysera blinked. The voice she heard was not cold steel. It was firm but steady with a weight of sincerity. She gathered her breath and answered, her words gentle but clear. "And you, General Kane, the honor is shared." The courtiers exchanged glances. Some looked surprised, as if they had expected hostility in the first words. Instead, what filled the room was something far different, a cautious, fragile courtesy. As the formal greetings ended, the two were guided to a smaller chamber prepared for their first private conversation. Guards waited outside, but the room itself was quiet, furnished with a round table of polished crystal and two chairs placed opposite one another. When they sat, Marcus studied her carefully, not with suspicion, but with focus. Lysera lowered her gaze for a moment, then forced herself to meet his eyes. "You are not as I imagined," she admitted softly. Marcus raised a brow. "And how did you imagine me?" She hesitated. "As someone ruthless. A man who showed no mercy, who looked upon others with nothing but coldness." A faint smile tugged at his lips, though it was not mocking. "I have heard what your people say about me. Perhaps I cannot blame them. War does not leave gentle stories behind." Lysera tilted her head. His words struck her as strange, humble even. He was not denying his battles, but neither did he wear them as trophies. Then, you do not deny the things said of you? She asked carefully. I do not, Marcus answered, his gaze steady. But I also do not claim them as the whole truth. Ruthless, perhaps. In battle, I strike fast and hard because hesitation costs lives. My soldiers' lives, and sometimes even the lives of our enemies. Mercy in war is not kindness if it only prolongs the bloodshed. His explanation made her pause. It was different from the whispers of cruelty she had heard. He spoke like a man who carried responsibility, not joy in his actions. For a time, silence lingered. Lysera folded her hands in her lap, trying to study him more closely. He was not smiling, not warm, but neither was he unfeeling. His eyes carried a tiredness as though he had seen too much. You are quieter than I expected, she finally said. Quieter? He repeated. Yes. Stories painted you as a roaring fire, but you seem more like stone. Marcus leaned back slightly. Stone endures, princess. Fire burns out. The answer surprised her again. She wondered how many more surprises this human carried. Later, attendants brought them food and drink from both cultures, crystal fruits of Thalaran gardens and roasted meats favored by humans. At first, they ate in silence, but soon small misunderstandings began to surface. When Lysera delicately lifted a glowing fruit with her fingers, Marcus reached for a fork. She noticed and laughed softly. In Thalaran custom, we eat these with hands, not tools. Marcus set down his fork without hesitation. Then tonight I follow Thalaran custom. It was a small gesture, but it struck Lysera deeply. She had expected stubborn pride, a refusal to bend. Instead, he showed adaptability, even respect. Later, when she struggled with the heavy human goblet, he noticed and quietly poured her water into a lighter Thalaran cup without comment. Again, not the action of a ruthless conqueror, but of someone attentive. As the evening ended, Marcus spoke first. Princess, I know this union is not what you dreamed for your life, nor is it what I dreamed for mine. Yet if it is to bring peace between our people, then we must find trust between us. Lysera looked at him, her silver eyes reflecting the faint glow of the chamber. Trust is not built in a day, General. But perhaps it can begin with honesty, Marcus nodded. Then let us be honest. I will not pretend to be gentle, nor will I ask you to change who you are. But I promise you this, I will not treat you with cruelty. You will not be my prisoner nor my ornament. You will be my partner if you choose to stand with me. Those words struck her heart more than any rumor ever had. A partner, not a prize, not a tool. For the first time, a flicker of relief warmed her chest. When Lysera returned to her quarters that night, her attendants eagerly questioned her, but she offered little. She simply said, "He is not as I feared." Yet inside her mind, questions swirled. Who was Marcus Kane truly? A man shaped by war or a soul hidden beneath armor? The whispers of her people no longer seemed certain. She sat by the window, gazing out into the star-filled void. Somewhere deep within, she felt the smallest spark of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, this marriage would not be chains of fear, but something different. Something new. The next day, official ceremonies continued. Delegates from other empires arrived, eager to witness history. Lysera and Marcus stood side by side at a public gathering, their hands never touching but their presence shared. The crowd studied them with suspicion, curiosity, and hope. Lysera glanced sideways at Marcus. His posture was strong, his face unreadable, but when their eyes met, he gave a faint nod. A silent assurance, and for the first time since the announcement of her fate, Princess Lysera's fear began to loosen its grip. The days aboard the Celestial Accord moved swiftly. Ceremonies, speeches, and endless banquets filled the schedule. Princess Lysera smiled politely at dignitaries, bowed to rulers, and listened to speeches about peace and unity. Yet deep inside, she knew all these words meant little without proof. Words could be empty. Trust had to be tested. That was why the rite of unity had been prepared. For centuries, when two great houses of the Thalaran Empire sealed alliances through marriage, they did not rely only on contracts. Instead, they placed the couple in a challenge, a trial to prove whether they could stand together. Though the humans found the tradition strange, the Federation Council had agreed. If this union was to last, it must be tested, and so, on the third week of negotiations, Lysera and General Marcus Kane were summoned to the Accord's central chamber. where leaders of both sides gathered. Emperor Thaloran spoke first, his voice echoing through the hall. Princess Lysera, General Kane, before the galaxy accepts this marriage as a bond of trust, you must face the right of unity. You will be placed together on a world of challenge. You must endure, protect one another, and return alive. Only then will this alliance be sealed. Lysera bowed gracefully. I accept, Father. Marcus stood tall and gave a single nod. As do I. The chosen world was Valoria, a planet with wild storms, jagged mountains, and forests filled with dangerous creatures. Its atmosphere was harsh but survivable with effort. It was not meant to kill them, but to test their strength and cooperation. The day they departed, Lysera felt a knot tighten in her chest. Dressed in lighter ceremonial armor rather than her flowing gowns, she felt exposed and uncertain. Beside her, Marcus adjusted his survival pack with calm precision. You have faced battles before, she said softly as they entered the transport pod. But I am no warrior. Marcus looked at her for a moment. His expression softened. This is not about you becoming a warrior. It is about trust. I will not let harm come to you, but you must also trust yourself more than you do now. His words surprised her again. She nodded, though fear still clung to her heart. The pod launched, cutting through space before piercing Valoria's thick clouds. The storm outside roared like a beast, lightning flashing across the sky. The pod shook violently, but Marcus held the controls steady. Lysera clutched her seat, breath quick and shallow. When they finally landed with a heavy thud, the hatch opened to reveal a world of endless gray clouds, sharp winds, and towering trees that glowed faintly in the stormlight. The air was heavy but breathable. Their trial had begun. The first hours tested them quickly. Rain poured in heavy sheets, soaking their cloaks. The forest floor was uneven, roots twisting like serpents beneath their feet. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, low growls and sharp cries. Marcus led the way, scanning the terrain with practiced eyes. He carried a blaster rifle, though he kept it lowered. Lysera followed, her hand resting lightly on the small blade given to her for defense. She tried to walk with calm steps, though her heart raced at every sound. Stay close, Marcus said. If something moves, don't run. Stand behind me, Lysera obeyed. His tone was firm but not unkind. She could feel the weight of his experience, and though fear remained, it slowly eased, knowing he was watching over her. By nightfall, they found shelter beneath a rocky overhang. Marcus built a small fire using a portable igniter, while Lysera gathered dry leaves to help keep the flame alive. As they sat together, watching the storm rage outside, Lysera finally asked the question that had haunted her since the rite was announced. General Kane, why did you agree to this union? Truly, was it only duty? Marcus gazed into the fire before answering. Duty, yes, but not only. I have fought too many wars. I have seen too many young soldiers fall. If this marriage ends the cycle, then it is worth more than any battle I could ever win. Perhaps I am ruthless, as they say, but I am ruthless because I want war to end faster, not last longer. Lysera studied him. His words carried no pride, no arrogance, only weariness. For the first time, she saw not just a general, but a man who carried the weight of countless lives. I never thought you would care about peace, she whispered. A faint smile crossed his lips. Neither did I once. The following day, their trial grew harsher. As they crossed a narrow ravine, a massive creature lunged from the shadows, its body armored with dark scales, its mouth wide with jagged teeth. Lysera froze in terror, but Marcus moved instantly, pulling her behind him as the beast roared. Blaster fire lit the air, striking the creature's side. It staggered but did not fall. With a second charge, it knocked Marcus to the ground. Lysera's heart screamed in panic. Without thinking, she grabbed her blade and slashed at the beast's eye. It screeched in pain, rearing back. Marcus rolled to his feet, fired a final shot, and the beast collapsed with a thunderous crash. Breathing hard, Lysera stared at her trembling hands. She had never struck anything before, never fought in her life. Yet in that moment she had acted. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. You saved us, he said simply. I only acted because I feared losing you, she admitted, voice shaking. That is courage, Marcus replied. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of it. Those words lit something within her, a warmth stronger than the fire of their camp. Over the next days, their bond grew. They faced storms that tore branches from trees, rivers that nearly swept them away, and creatures that stalked their every step. Through it all, Marcus shielded Lysera, but Lysera also learned to stand beside him. She watched how he studied the land, how he chose paths with care, and she offered her own knowledge of reading the stars to guide them when their devices failed. Slowly, fear gave way to respect. Respect grew into something stronger, a fragile trust. One evening, as they shared a meal of gathered fruits and dried rations, Lysera looked at him with steady eyes. "You are not ruthless, as they say," she said. Marcus chuckled softly, shaking his head. "No, then what am I?" She thought carefully before answering. "You are determined, perhaps hard like stone, but stone can also be strong enough to build upon. Perhaps I can build trust upon you." For the first time, Marcus smiled, not faintly, not guarded, but warmly. "Then we may yet survive this world, princess." On the 7th day, the storms finally cleared, revealing the skies above Valoria. A signal beacon activated, calling the Accord to retrieve them. When the rescue craft descended, Lysera and Marcus stood side by side, battered but unbroken, before the watching leaders they had endured. They had proven that together, they could face danger and survive. Yet what mattered most was not what others saw, but what Lysera herself now believed. The man beside her was no monster. He was no ruthless beast of rumor. He was a warrior, yes, but also a protector, a partner. And for the first time, as the stars of Valoria's night sky faded into the glow of the Accord, Princess Lysera felt her fear replaced by something new: hope. The galaxy had watched closely as Princess Lysera and General Marcus Kane returned from the Rite of Unity. Their success was a victory in itself, a proof of trust and cooperation. Yet not everyone was pleased. Within the Thalaran court, whispers of dissent had grown louder during their absence. Certain nobles had long opposed the marriage, fearing the humans' influence over their empire. Now they saw an opportunity to sabotage the alliance. That opportunity came quickly. As Lysera prepared for a ceremonial banquet aboard the Celestial Accord, she felt a strange unease. Her attendants moved around her, but she noticed an unusual tension in the air. One of the courtiers, a man named Vorin, had lingered too long near the doorway, watching her with a hard, calculating gaze. Before she could question it, alarms blared throughout the hall. Red lights flashed, and the smooth hum of the ship was replaced by harsh sirens. "Princess!" shouted a guard. "We are under attack! Follow me!" Lysera's heart pounded. Marcus was already at her side, his calm presence a stark contrast to the chaos. "Stay close," he instructed, taking her hand and leading her through twisting corridors. "Do not panic. We will get through this." They moved swiftly, evading guards who were trying to contain the intruders. The attackers were not human. They wore Thaloran military insignia, but their faces were masked, their intent clear. Lysera's mind raced. She had been afraid of Marcus before, but now, seeing him act in real time, she realized fear was no longer her enemy. Survival was, and she needed him. The intruders split the group, and suddenly Lysera found herself separated, dragged into a side chamber by Vorin himself. He sneered, confident. "Princess," he said, his voice low, "your marriage will never happen. The humans are intruders. I will make sure your people remain pure and safe." Lysera's pulse quickened, but she did not scream. She remembered Marcus's lessons from the Rite. "Fear is natural, but courage is stronger. Why are you doing this?" she demanded. "Do you really think threatening me will save anyone?" Vorin laughed harshly. "I'm saving the Empire from fools like you." Before he could act further, the door burst open. Marcus stood there, blaster in hand, eyes calm but deadly. "Step away," he ordered. His voice carried authority that made Vorin hesitate. Vorin lunged at Lysera, but Marcus reacted instantly. With precision, he disarmed the man and subdued him without unnecessary harm. Lysera watched in awe as Marcus moved, not as a merciless soldier, but as a protector, skilled yet measured. "Are you hurt?" he asked, turning to her. Lysera shook her head, her fear giving way to relief. "No, I am safe because you are here." Marcus's face softened briefly. "I will keep you safe, Lysera. Not because I am ruthless, but because I choose to care." The rest of the night was chaos. The Accord security teams fought off remaining conspirators, securing the ship. Marcus stayed close to Lysera throughout, his presence steadying her. In the quiet moments after the attack, She realized something important. The fear she had carried about him, the stories of ruthless brutality, were lies shaped by distance, rumor, and misunderstanding. She had seen his true character now, not in tales or whispers, but in action. The next day, Lysera and Marcus walked through the observation deck, overlooking the stars. Silence stretched between them, but it was a comfortable silence. "You were amazing last night," Lysera said softly. I was terrified, but watching you, seeing how you acted." "I understood." Marcus looked at her. "What did you understand?" "That you are not ruthless for the sake of it," she replied. "You fight, you act because it is necessary. You care, Marcus. You care deeply about others, even when it is not easy." He gave a faint smile. "And you? You acted bravely too. You did not cower when it mattered most. That courage saved both of us." Lysera felt warmth spread through her chest. She had begun to see the man as more than a general, more than a rumor. He was human. He was strong. He was honorable. When the time came to report their success to the Thalaran Emperor, Lysera spoke first. Her voice was steady, her posture regal. "The threat is neutralized. The accord is secure, and I have seen the character of the human I am to marry. He is not what the rumors claimed. He is more than worthy of trust." The Emperor's eyes softened. "Then perhaps, Lysera, the galaxy is ready for a new chapter, one written by both Thaloran and human." Lysera nodded. Hope glimmered in her eyes, stronger than fear had ever been. The chains of her old fear had been broken, and she was ready for what came next. The day of the final ceremony arrived. The Celestial Accord's Grand Hall was filled with rulers, ambassadors, and citizens of multiple worlds. Banners waved, lights shimmered, and the air thrummed with anticipation. Princess Lysera stood before the gathered crowd, her gown sparkling like the night sky. Beside her, Marcus Kane waited, calm, strong, and unwavering. Today she would make a choice. And it was a choice no one could force. As the officiant began the ceremony, Lysera's mind traveled back over the weeks. She remembered the rumors, the fear, and the doubts that had haunted her. She remembered the first meeting with Marcus, and the doubts that had lingered in the quiet halls of the Accord. She remembered the rite of unity, the storms, the wild creatures, the moments when she thought she could not survive. Yet she did, because Marcus had been there, because she had found courage she did not know she possessed. She remembered the attempted sabotage, when Marcus had saved her life without hesitation, proving that his strength was not cruelty, but protection. And now, standing before the galaxy, she understood the truth. The officiant paused, looking at her expectantly. "Princess Lysera, do you accept this union to marry General Marcus Kane, uniting the Thalaran Empire and the Human Federation in trust, respect, and honor?" Lysera drew a deep breath. Her heart beat steadily, no longer filled with fear but with certainty. "I do," she said, her voice strong and clear. "Not because I am forced, not because of duty alone, but because I choose to. I choose to stand with him, to trust him, to build a future together." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some whispered, some gasped, but all watched as she stepped forward with confidence. Marcus's hand lifted slightly, not to take hers, but as a gesture of acknowledgement. His eyes met hers, steady, respectful, and full of trust. "I accept," he said simply, "and I will honor your choice, Princess, always." At that moment the crowd erupted, not in cheers but in silent admiration. They had witnessed not only a royal union, but a partnership of equals, built on courage, honesty, and mutual respect. After the ceremony, the newly united couple stood on the observation balcony of the Accord. The stars stretched endlessly before them, glittering like a promise of new beginnings. Lysera leaned slightly toward Marcus. "I was terrified at first," she admitted softly. He looked at her. "And now, I see strength, not fear. I see honor, not ruthlessness. I see a man who fights not to destroy but to protect, and I am proud to stand beside him." Marcus smiled, faintly but warmly. "Then together we will face whatever comes next. Not as soldier and princess, but as partners. The galaxy would remember this day, not for ceremony alone, but for the courage of a princess who chose hope over fear, and the honor of a human who proved that strength could be gentle, and mercy could be true. For Princess Lysera and General Marcus Kane, the future was no longer a chain of rumors, fear, or doubt. It was a path they would walk together side by side, ready to face the challenges of a universe that had watched them with suspicion, and now with awe. As they looked out at the stars, Lizera whispered almost to herself, "The galaxy is vast, but so is the courage we carry." Marcus nodded, "And together, nothing can break it." The stars gleamed brighter that night, as if celebrating not just a union of two individuals, but the promise of trust, understanding, and a future shaped by honor.